The alien ship descended slowly over the small human settlement. The hum of its engines was a sound that no one had ever heard before, and it made the air feel thick with tension. The strange vessel hovered for a moment before a ramp descended, and a handful of beings in sleek dark armor stepped down from it. Their movements were methodical, calculated, each step a testament to their years of conquest. Across the galaxy they had encountered many species, some weak, some strong, but never had they faced one quite like this. The humans, as they observed, were simple in appearance. Their technology was primitive at best. Compared to the alien fleet, they had only just begun to explore the stars themselves. But there was something about the way they carried themselves that stood apart from the other lesser species. The aliens would soon find out that this unassuming planet was far from the easy conquest they had expected. The humans gathered around as the alien envoy stepped forward. The air was thick with distrust, but no one spoke. The aliens came to them with the promise of peace, an offer of trade and cooperation, but they knew nothing of the humans. The humans had always fought for survival. They had built civilizations only to watch them burn and then rise again. They had faced endless wars, disease, and even the harshness of their own world. And yet here they stood, the alien delegation, extended an olive branch offering peace. But the humans did not seem interested. The leader of the human group stepped forward, his posture unyielding, his eyes unwavering. As he addressed the envoy, he had heard stories of these conquerors, of their methods of assimilation, and he knew better than to trust their words. He looked at them, not with fear or reverence, but with quiet defiance. The words he spoke would be simple and clear, but they would echo across the galaxy. We've drawn a line with humans. We don't go there. The aliens were momentarily thrown off by the statement. It was not what they had expected. Humans were supposed to be weak, terrified creatures, ready to submit to their superior technology. They had never heard a species speak with such resolve, such confidence. It was almost as if the humans had already decided they would not be conquered, no matter the cost. The alien envoy exchanged uncertain glances amongst themselves. Their mission had been straightforward, but now they were uncertain. This wasn't going to be the easy task they had anticipated. They had underestimated the humans before. They were too focused on their technological superiority to consider the resilience that lay within the hearts of these creatures. They had been warned of the unpredictable nature of humans, but they had not listened. A long silence followed the aliens' words, hung in the air, heavy and unnatural. The humans stood in place, waiting for the next move, their faces unreadable. It wasn't fear they felt, but something else, something much deeper, something that had driven them through centuries of hardship. It was the knowledge that they would never bow to anyone, not again, not now, not ever. As the silence stretched on, the alien envoy finally spoke. They would not be swayed by the human leader's words. They would continue their mission. They would make them see reason or force them into submission. They believed they could break them. But what they did not know was that the line had already been drawn, and crossing it would come with a cost. They were about to learn that humans did not give up, they did not surrender, and they never forgot. The alien fleet watched from orbit. As the humans scrambled in preparation, the alien commanders were convinced that their show of force would send the humans into submission. But they were wrong. Humans had never bowed to force alone. They were a species defined by their unpredictability, their ability to adapt and survive. No matter the odds, the aliens deployed their advanced weaponry, at once targeting the largest human cities. They believed that this would be the end. The humans would break beneath the weight of their superior power. But instead, something happened that the aliens had not anticipated. The humans fought back. With their backs against the wall, the humans unleashed everything they had. They didn't have the luxury of high-tech weapons or shielded battle armor, but what they lacked in technology, they more than made up for in ingenuity. Humans had always been masters of turning disadvantage into advantage. It started with small skirmishes where groups of humans armed with little more than basic firearms and homemade explosives began harassing the alien forces. Their tactics were brutal and resourceful. They knew their terrain better than any alien could, and they used it to their advantage. They took to the forests, the mountains, the cities with a vengeance, attacking from unexpected places, hitting and retreating with lightning speed. The aliens were caught off guard by how quickly and decisively the humans were able to strike. The battles were fierce, but short. The humans didn't hesitate. They fought like animals, defending their home like creatures driven by pure instinct. The alien commanders grew frustrated with each passing moment as they tried to predict the humans' movements, but found themselves continually outwitted and outmaneuvered. The sheer audacity of the human resistance began to erode their confidence. No longer were they simply dealing with an underdeveloped species. They were facing an enemy that would not bend. As the first major battle unfolded on the ground, the alien forces found themselves stretched thin. Their superior numbers were no match for the guerrilla tactics of the humans. The humans had no intention of fighting like the aliens expected. They didn't have to win every battle. They just needed to keep the aliens off balance to make them question their position. And so they did. They used the element of surprise in every engagement. They destroyed supply lines, ambushed vulnerable units, and sabotaged alien equipment, all with the goal of stalling the advance and making the aliens regret their decision to invade. One human battalion managed to infiltrate an alien transport ship and disable its weapons systems with nothing but crude tools and sheer determination. The alien ship was left vulnerable to a counterattack from Earth's makeshift air force. The alien fleet watched in horror as the crippled ship drifted in space, a symbol of their underestimation of humanity's resourcefulness. The battle was not over yet, but the aliens were beginning to realize that they had underestimated the humans in ways they hadn't imagined. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humans, who had once been divided by differences, began to unite under a single banner. The message was clear: they would not let their home be taken. They would fight not for land or resources, but for something far more important: their survival and their freedom. And as the battles raged on across the globe, the aliens realized that the humans had become something they had never planned for, a force of nature that would never bow to anyone, no matter the cost. As the days passed and the conflict deepened, the alien commanders began to realize that their initial underestimation of humanity was no small mistake. The humans' resistance had grown more organized, more fierce with each battle, and now their tactics were beginning to show a level of cohesion that the alien forces could not ignore. Every move the humans made felt like a calculated response, as though they knew exactly what the aliens would do next and were prepared to counter it. In the midst of this rising tension, the alien fleet's top strategist, Commander Threx, began researching humanity's history. He had dismissed it at first as irrelevant, a primitive species with nothing more than the ability to fight and die. But now, as the human resistance seemed to evolve before his eyes, he couldn't help but question his assumptions. There was something unsettling about humanity's persistence. No matter how many cities were destroyed or how many alien ships were deployed, humans kept fighting, kept coming back stronger than before. Threx delved deeper into the historical records of Earth. He studied their wars, their rise from the ashes of countless conflicts and catastrophes, their evolution from scattered tribes to unified nations. What shocked him most wasn't their ability to fight. It was their refusal to give up. Earth had been ravaged by countless wars, diseases, and environmental crises, yet humanity had endured each and every time. They didn't just survive. They rebuilt. They adapted. They thrived. In the quiet of his command ship, Threx sat back in his chair as the realization hit him with full force. Humans were not like any species the alien empire had encountered. They were relentless, yes, but there was something more, something primal, something almost unexplainable. It wasn't just their ability to adapt to circumstances, it was their ability to unite in the face of complete annihilation. The unity of purpose they shared was unlike any species he had studied. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but there was a burning, intrinsic drive within humanity that no amount of force or intimidation could quench. This understanding sent a ripple of unease through the alien high command. They had expected to break the human spirit through overwhelming power. They had expected fear to be the ultimate tool for subjugation. But humanity was different. The more they were cornered, the more they fought back, and the more they found ways to turn the tables on their oppressors. The aliens knew now, this wasn't just a battle of technology. This was a battle of wills. Back on Earth, the global alliance of human forces had begun to adapt to the evolving conflict. The underground resistance cells had become a cohesive global force, each group working in tandem, sharing intelligence, resources, and strategies. Earth's military forces, once divided by borders and politics, had put aside differences and joined forces under a single banner. The message was clear: this is our home, and we will defend it at all costs. Human ingenuity was in full force now. One particularly daring human pilot, who had once been a civilian mechanic, managed to reverse engineer alien weaponry and deploy it against their own fleet. It was a symbolic victory. The humans had taken something designed to destroy them and used it to strike back. The alien commanders could hardly believe it. The balance was tipping. As the human resistance grew stronger, the word began to spread across the galaxy. Other species, who had long been under the thumb of the alien empire, started to take notice. Whispers of humanity's resilience and determination reached their ears, and for the first time, other worlds began to question the empire's superiority. The human resistance was no longer just a nuisance. It had become a symbol that resistance against oppression was possible, that no matter how many times a species was pushed to the edge, they could still rise. Commander Threx looked out at the stars, pondering what the future held. He knew one thing for certain: the human spirit was unlike anything he had ever encountered. They had drawn a line, and now it was clear that no force, not even the Empire, could easily cross it. It was a line not of territory, not of physical borders, but of will, and that was something the aliens had yet to understand. The battle for Earth escalated to a new and terrifying level as the alien fleet prepared to deliver a decisive blow. Commander Threx, along with his fellow high commanders, watched from their flagship as their orbital cannon powered up, its immense destructive power ready to unleash on the heart of Earth's largest cities. This weapon, capable of wiping out entire metropolises in a single strike, was the last card in their hand. The aliens believed that with this weapon, they could break humanity's spirit once and for all, crush any remaining hope, and force them into submission. The first target was a sprawling city, once a symbol of human progress and achievement. It was now nothing more than a casualty in the war, a place where the hopes of millions would hang in the balance. As the weapon prepared to fire, the human resistance forces scrambled to evacuate civilians and fortify whatever was left of their defenses. But the weight of the impending destruction loomed over them. There was no denying the scale of the alien power, and for a brief moment, even the most hardened soldiers questioned their ability to overcome such an enemy. Then, with a deafening roar, the orbital cannon fired. The blast ripped through the city, turning it to rubble. It was a cataclysmic shockwave that consumed everything in its path. The buildings, the infrastructure, the people. The ground trembled under the sheer force of the blast. And yet, despite the devastation, something unexpected happened. Amid the wreckage, survivors, those who had managed to escape the blast radius, did not break. They did not surrender. Instead, they rallied. From the ashes of the fallen city, a voice echoed across the global communication networks. "We've drawn a line. Cross it, and you will face us all." The human response was instantaneous. What was once a divided world now united in the face of an unstoppable enemy. The loss of one city had ignited a firestorm of resistance. Across continents, people who had once been separated by borders, politics, and ideologies now stood together against a common foe. Governments and rebel factions alike put aside their differences, forming a single united force. The aliens had made the fatal mistake of thinking they could break the human will with fear. They were wrong. The remaining human forces, though devastated by the loss, refused to let it define them. In fact, it did the opposite. It fueled them. They began to fight harder, smarter, and more resourcefully. What the aliens failed to account for was the human ability to adapt, to learn quickly, and to find ways to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. Human ingenuity began to shine through, as various resistance groups started to retool and repurpose alien technology they had captured. Weapons that once belonged to their oppressors were now being turned against them. A daring mission was launched to infiltrate an alien command center, and against all odds, the humans succeeded. The high-tech systems inside the facility were crippled, and valuable intelligence was seized. The aliens, once confident that they held the upper hand, were starting to see cracks in their perfect strategy. But it wasn't just the technology that was changing the tide of the war. It was the human spirit. It was the unrelenting drive that had been honed over centuries of struggle. The humans' refusal to back down in the face of impossible odds began to chip away at the alien empire's confidence. Each victory, no matter how small, only proved to the aliens that this was not going to be an easy conquest. This was not just about destroying cities or defeating armies. It was about breaking something deeper, something far more formidable: humanity's unshakable resolve. The alien commanders convened in the wake of their devastating strike, reeling from the unexpected consequences. They had thought they could break humanity. They had thought that their might would be enough. But they hadn't counted on one thing: the human will to fight for survival. It was something the aliens could never truly understand. And as Earth's resistance forces grew stronger, bolder, and more determined, it became clear to the aliens that they had made a grave mistake. The line had been drawn, and now the consequences of crossing it would be far greater than they could ever have imagined. The battle was far from over, but the tide had undeniably shifted. The alien fleet had underestimated the strength of humanity's resolve, and now they were beginning to realize the magnitude of their mistake. Earth's resistance was no longer just a nuisance. It had become a formidable force. Commander Threx paced aboard his flagship, his mind racing. The humans had taken the blow, the loss of an entire city, and instead of crumbling, they had grown stronger. They were unyielding, relentless, and worse yet, they were beginning to find ways to fight back with alien technology. Threx's hands clenched into fists as he thought of the disastrous mission to disable one of their command centers. That loss had shaken the confidence of the entire fleet. The humans were not acting like an underdeveloped species. They were acting like a species with something to protect, something to fight for, something far more valuable than just territory or resources. They fought for their home. They'd fought for their survival. The alien commanders huddled together in the strategy room, reviewing the data they had gathered over the past several days. The situation was dire. Their technological advantage, once so overwhelming, was slipping through their fingers. The humans had taken the weapons they had left behind and adapted them to their own use with frightening efficiency. What had been their greatest strength, their superior technology, was now their greatest weakness. Humanity had found ways to neutralize their most potent weapons and turned them against the invaders. "We need to end this," one of the senior commanders said, his voice thick with frustration. "If we do not act now, we risk losing everything." Threx glanced at the others, his eyes narrowing. "We cannot underestimate them again. This fight has gone far beyond technology. The humans are resilient. They have adapted in ways we did not predict." "But they are only human," another commander argued. "Their numbers are limited, their resources finite. They will break. We just need to apply more pressure." Threx stared out of the viewing window at the distant stars. The humans had already faced and survived hardships that would have broken any other species. Their history was a testament to their ability to endure. The more the aliens applied pressure, the more the humans pushed back. They were beginning to see their culture, their way of life, as something worth protecting, a concept the aliens couldn't fully comprehend. And that was where the alien commanders were wrong. They thought they could intimidate the humans into submission, but they hadn't accounted for the unwavering force that had driven humanity to conquer their world and the stars beyond. Back on Earth, the resistance was swelling. Every day, more soldiers and civilians joined the fight, determined to reclaim their planet. The human military, once fragmented, had become a united front with an increasingly sophisticated command structure. The resistance had learned to communicate without relying on traditional military channels, evading alien surveillance, and coordinating strikes in ways that had once seemed impossible. Meanwhile, the alien fleet began to feel the strain. A few of their ships had been ambushed and taken down by Earth's newfound tactics. The humans had begun to implement guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run tactics that kept the invaders on the defensive. Earth's fighters had adapted to the alien ships, learning how to use their weapons and technology to outmaneuver their foes. But it wasn't just the technology that was shifting the balance. It was the human spirit. The aliens were starting to realize that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology or strategy, but the very thing they had once thought would be their downfall: their unity. The humans had discovered something powerful in their shared resolve, something that made them unlike any species the aliens had encountered. They had learned to fight as one, and now they were unstoppable. Commander Threx's face grew grim as the realization hit him. The longer they delayed, the stronger the humans became. This wasn't just a battle for Earth anymore. It was a battle for the future, for the survival of an entire species. And if the alien empire didn't act swiftly, they would lose more than just one planet. They would lose the very foundation of their dominance. The situation was spiraling out of control for the aliens. The alien fleet, once poised to crush humanity beneath its might, now found itself on the defensive. Commander Threx had never imagined the war would turn this way. He had assumed that the overwhelming superiority of the alien forces would quickly crush the human resistance. But now he saw that humanity's ability to adapt, to unite, and to survive had transformed them into something far more dangerous than he had ever anticipated. On the ground, Earth's resistance was becoming more coordinated and lethal by the day. Every major city that had been reduced to rubble was rebuilt, not as a symbol of defeat, but as a rallying point for those who would never stop fighting. Human engineers and scientists had been working overtime, reverse engineering alien technology, and finding new ways to counteract the alien fleet. The resistance forces had developed new weapons, more efficient methods of communication, and more effective combat strategies. What was once a ragtag group of desperate fighters had become a well-oiled machine capable of taking down even the most powerful alien vessels. The aliens had underestimated the power of human resilience. They had assumed that humanity's primitive technology would be a disadvantage, but what they didn't account for was the ingenuity that came with desperation. The humans had learned quickly. They had used every resource at their disposal to fight back, and now the balance of power was shifting. Humanity's unity, too, had proven to be a force unlike any the aliens had encountered. The resistance had brought together not just soldiers and military personnel, but civilians, scientists, engineers, and workers from every corner of the planet. People who had once been divided by politics, culture, and history had set aside their differences to fight for their future. They had learned the art of cooperation in ways the aliens never thought possible. The unity that had been born from the ashes of war had transformed the human race into a single, unstoppable force. As the resistance made its push across Earth's continents, the alien commanders grew desperate. Threx knew that if they didn't do something drastic soon, they would lose not just the planet, but the war itself. The humans were beginning to recapture territory, slowly but surely. They had even managed to disable several key alien installations, severely crippling the Empire's war effort. But the aliens were not ready to concede. The Empire's leaders issued an ultimatum: surrender or face the complete annihilation of Earth. The alien fleet would fire on every remaining city, every human stronghold, until nothing was left but ash and ruin. Threx, now desperate to quell the uprising, knew that the time had come for a final strike, a strike that would erase humanity from existence. The humans, however, were not intimidated. They knew that if they surrendered now, the consequences would be worse than death. They had already lost too much. The sacrifices made in the name of survival could never be undone, and they would fight to the last man, woman, and child to protect their planet. The message they sent to the alien fleet was simple and defiant. We will never surrender. We will never kneel. Back on Earth, the Resistance commanders made a bold decision. They would take the fight to the heart of the alien fleet. They would strike at the heart of the Empire itself. Using the knowledge they had gained from their successful missions and the technology they had captured, the humans developed a plan to infiltrate the alien flagship, a massive warship that loomed like a specter in Earth's orbit. It would be a suicide mission. The alien flagship was heavily guarded, its defenses nearly impenetrable. But the humans had no choice. The risk was immense, but the rewards could be even greater. If they could disable the flagship, the alien fleet would be thrown into disarray, and Earth's chances of survival would rise exponentially. The humans readied themselves for the most daring mission of their lives. Fighters, bombers, engineers, and soldiers volunteered to board the alien flagship. Their mission was clear: take down the heart of the alien war machine. They knew they might not return, but they were willing to make that sacrifice for their families, for their homes, for the future of humanity. Commander Threx had no idea that humanity had already planned its counterstrike. The battle for Earth was far from over, but the aliens had underestimated what they were up against. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored or easily crushed. They had proven their strength, their will, and their determination. Now, they were about to make the aliens feel the full force of what it meant to cross a line. The final assault had begun. Earth's resistance forces, though battered and bruised, were ready for their most dangerous mission yet: an assault on the alien flagship. The stakes had never been higher. With each passing moment, humanity's fate hung in the balance. If they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. If they succeeded, the course of the war would change forever. In the command center of the Resistance, commanders stood over holographic displays, coordinating their forces. They had learned much from their previous victories, and now, using the stolen alien technology and the intelligence gathered in their successful sabotage missions, they had formulated a plan. A fleet of human ships, fighters and bombers would launch a simultaneous strike on the alien flagship, while a team of elite soldiers would infiltrate the vessel itself. Their objective was simple: disable the flagship's core systems, leaving the alien fleet in chaos and forcing them to retreat. Captain Elena Takashi, one of the Resistance's finest pilots, stood in front of her fighter, checking her gear. She had seen the devastation caused by the alien forces firsthand. Cities reduced to rubble, entire populations wiped out, her own family lost to the invaders. This mission wasn't just a strategic objective, it was personal. She had no illusions about the dangers ahead, but she knew one thing: the aliens had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. The launch of the Resistance fleet was a coordinated ballet of precision. Ships launched from underground bases, fighters streaked across the sky, and bombers swept toward space. The humans were ready to make their move. As they ascended into orbit, they encountered the first wave of alien defenders. The aliens had positioned their fleet to intercept, but they were still recovering from the previous battles. The Resistance capitalized on the opportunity, using their knowledge of alien tactics to outmaneuver their opponents. The fight was fierce, but the humans had the element of surprise on their side. The alien ships, though technologically superior, were not prepared for the resourcefulness and unpredictability of their enemies. Explosions rocked the sky as missiles struck alien ships, fighters engaged in dogfights above Earth's atmosphere, and the sounds of battle filled the radio frequencies. The alien forces were thrown into disarray, unable to deal with the unrelenting wave of human ingenuity that had once been dismissed as insignificant. But the humans knew they couldn't afford to waste time. While the alien fleet was distracted, the infiltration team prepared for their daring mission. A small, elite squad of soldiers, led by Major Isaac Wells, boarded a specially designed stealth ship. Their target was the alien flagship, a gargantuan, heavily guarded fortress in space. They would need to bypass the flagship's defenses, disable its communication systems, and plant explosives at the core. If they were successful, the alien fleet would be left in chaos, unable to mount a cohesive defense. Wells and his team knew they were walking into a trap. The flagship was heavily fortified, its corridors teeming with alien soldiers, and its systems nearly impenetrable. Yet, they had no choice. They had to succeed. The fate of their world rested on their shoulders. They boarded their stealth ship, cloaked from the alien radars, and navigated through the asteroid field that surrounded the flagship. As they neared the ship, Wells's heart pounded in his chest. The tension was palpable. Every second felt like an eternity. He glanced at his team, his friends, his comrades, and saw the same determination in their eyes. They had fought side by side through every battle, each loss hardening their resolve, and each victory bringing them closer to this moment. They had already paid the price for this war in blood, but they were ready to pay it again, if it meant securing a future for their people. The stealth ship glided silently toward the flagship. They passed undetected through the enemy's perimeter, and as they reached the hull, Wells gave the order to disembark. The team quickly made their way inside, relying on the stolen alien technology they had mastered to disable security systems. They moved with a precision born of desperation. Every step took them closer to the heart of the alien ship and to the core that would determine the fate of the entire planet. As they reached the central control room, they were confronted by a wave of alien soldiers. The firefight was brutal, but the humans fought with everything they had. Every shot, every move, was calculated. They knew they had only one chance. They couldn't afford to fail. The sounds of explosions echoed throughout the halls, and soon the enemy forces began to retreat, unable to cope with the humans' relentless assault. Major Wells pressed forward, determined to reach the flagship's core. The clock was ticking. With every passing minute, the alien forces were organizing for a counterattack. If they couldn't complete their mission in time, the entire fleet would retaliate with overwhelming force. The final moments of the mission were a blur of chaos and adrenaline. Major Isaac Wells and his team had reached the heart of the alien flagship, but the cost had been high. The alien soldiers were fierce, and every step forward had been contested. Yet they pushed on, driven by the singular purpose of saving their world. Wells stood in front of the massive, glowing core of the alien warship, the pulsing energy field radiating in the center of the command room. His hand shook slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what they were about to do. They had only moments left before the rest of the alien forces regrouped, and their escape would become impossible. "Major, we've got to move," Sergeant Alex Monroe said, his voice tight with urgency. He kept his eyes on the door, ready for the next wave of alien soldiers. "They're coming." Wells nodded, his eyes scanning the controls in front of him. The alien core was sophisticated, designed to be nearly impenetrable, but after weeks of studying alien technology, they had devised a plan. If they could initiate the overload sequence and disable the core, the entire flagship would be crippled. The alien fleet would lose its command, creating a momentary window of vulnerability that humanity could exploit. Monroe moved to cover the door as Wells began to input the sequence. The room shook as explosions rattled the ship, but they couldn't stop now. This was their last chance. "Status report," Wells ordered. "We've got about 5 minutes before reinforcements arrive." Lieutenant Sarah Khan responded, her voice steady despite the chaos. "The comms are down, and the ship's hull is taking heavy damage from the ground forces. If we don't finish this now, it'll be too late." Wells set his jaw. He had never been one to rely on luck, but right now, all they had was the hope that the humans below, those fighting on Earth, were buying them enough time. He pressed the final key. The core of the flagship began to hum as energy levels spiked. A blinding light filled the room, and for a moment, everything seemed to stand still. The air felt thick, charged with the power of the ship's central reactor. Then, with a deafening crash, the systems began to overload. The core was destabilizing. Wells turned to his team. "We've got to move now." They sprinted for the escape route, taking a winding path through the corridors, using the same stolen technology to evade the alien forces. The flagship was beginning to tremble, the walls shuddering as the destabilized core sent shockwaves through the structure. Time was running out. The hallways were a maze of tight corners and long stretches, but the humans knew their way around. They had been trained for situations like this, under pressure, outnumbered, and with only seconds to spare. As they neared the docking bay, a group of alien soldiers appeared, blocking the path. "Cover me," Wells shouted as he ducked behind a large metal crate. Monroe, Khan, and the others opened fire. The alien soldiers advanced, but their movements were slower now, less organized. The blast from their weapons rattled the walls as the humans pushed forward, determined to reach the stealth ship waiting to take them back to Earth. The flagship's alarms blared as the core began its final countdown. The explosion was imminent. Wells couldn't afford to waste another second. He rushed toward the docking bay doors, watching as the remaining team members cleared the path. As they entered the shuttle, the engines roared to life. "Get us out of here," Wells ordered. The shuttle's doors slammed shut, and they shot off into space just as the alien flagship trembled with violent force. The detonation was imminent, and the shockwave from the explosion rippled outward, rocking the shuttle as it sped away. Through the viewport, Wells saw the flagship in the distance. It was a massive inferno of fire and debris. The once mighty warship, the symbol of the alien empire's strength, was crumbling into dust. The alien fleet was thrown into disarray, its leadership shattered, its strategic center gone. Earth's enemies were now without direction, their most formidable weapon rendered useless. Back on Earth, the resistance forces washed from the ground, tracking the explosion in real time. The alien fleet was faltering, their cohesion broken. The humans had succeeded. The alien ships, still in orbit around Earth, were now scattered without a unified command. The humans had broken the back of the alien invasion. The tides had shifted. The victory wasn't complete. Not yet, but humanity had taken a monumental step toward reclaiming their planet. They had drawn the line in the sand, and against all odds, they had held firm. They had shown the universe that they would not be so easily subdued, that they would fight for their world, their future, and their freedom. The war was far from over, but the humans now knew that they had something far more valuable than advanced technology or overwhelming firepower. They had the strength to stand together, no matter the cost. And that, as the alien fleet scrambled to recover, would be their undoing.